All right. Good morning. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Jessica Reynolds. I'm the Director of the Office of Downtown Development at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs.
All right. And can you explain to us what exactly does that mean? Like, what type of work do you do?
Sure, absolutely. So we're a little bit of everything, but our primary focus is helping to revitalize historic commercial districts throughout the state of Georgia. And one of the ways that we do that is with the Georgia Main Street program.
All right. And how long have you been with DCA specifically and in your field of expertise in general?
I started working at DCA in March of 2013, and I've been working in downtown development for almost 13 years.
Oh, plenty of experience there, it seems.
Yes, I actually, prior to working at DCA, was working in local government in the field as a practitioner. So have some definite on the ground experience. I have a family who owned a small business in a downtown. And so I've been able to see it from all different angles, which has been, I would say, very helpful and being able to relate with other small business owners as well as other professionals throughout the state.
Absolutely. Well, today we're here to talk about Georgia Main Street. Could you explain to us what exactly is Georgia Main Street?
Sure, absolutely. So, Main Street in general, the National Main Street movement was founded in 1980 as kind of a way to approach or to tackle the deinvestment that was happening in these historic commercial districts. So after World War II, we saw this flight to the suburbs. A lot of people left working in these big commercial corridors and started moving out to the suburbs. We saw shopping centers pop up. We saw malls become really huge and popular. And so there was this huge disinvestment that was happening in these historic commercial corridors. And so the National Main Street Center is a subsidiary of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And they came on board and said, we need to help revitalize these historic districts. They were set up as the heart of our community. And we want to make sure that our communities are coming together and still thriving around them. So actually, Georgia is one of the first pilot state programs in the country. Our program has actually been up and running for the past 40 years, and we started in 1980 as well. And we started with 5 programs, and we now have over 118 communities that we work directly with throughout the state.
So the mission of Georgia Main Street specifically is about historic preservation. Is that correct?
Yeah, we like to say historic preservation in the context of economic development. So we have, and I say we as in the National Main Street movement, we have something called the 4-point approach or the Main Street approach. I'll use the terms interchangeably sometimes, but we believe that there's these 4 pillars. So we have design, economic development, organization, and promotions. And when these 4 pillars come together in a balanced approach, we get good downtown development revitalization initiatives happening in the community. And so our kind of charge as an office is to help educate these downtown development professionals, to help them focus on strategic planning, understanding the importance of planning and the role that it plays in their community's revitalization process, to help point them towards incentives, whether that's local incentives or statewide incentives or even federal incentives, helping to educate them through that process. And we are also the kind of gatekeepers for the National Main Street Center's accreditation process. So at the national level, there's 2 different designations. They have affiliate communities and accredited communities, and there's different requirements for each, but all of our communities that we work with have to be redesignated every single year. So there are certain things that they have to do, certain educational requirements that they have to do, certain preservation, requirements and initiatives that they have to meet, making sure that, again, that it's not just focusing on getting someone into a building, it's getting the right person into a building. And it's not just how do we fix up a building so that we can get a business in there? It's how do we fix it up, make it sustainable, to make it look like it fits with the rest of what we're doing downtown? How do we make sure that we're not just building if we have to fill in and do some infill development? How do we make sure that we're not just building something for right now, that we're building for the future, that we are always thinking forward. And it's not, in our world, it's never just what's happening in the next year or two, it's what's happening in the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years, because a lot of our historic commercial districts that we're working with, they have been around for over 100 years. They've been around for, 120, 130, 150 years. So for us, we're trying to think long term as far as redevelopment and preservation.
Well, we've talked about how Georgia Main Street is essentially like a subsidiary of the National Main Street Center and Main Street
Mhm.
America and all that. But you work with us at DCA. So can you explain to us what exactly is the partnership between Georgia Main Street and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am a DCA employee. The incredible team that I work with, we are all employed by DCA. And our office is the designated state coordinating office for the National Main Street Center in Georgia. So the interesting thing about the Main Street movement is that every state kind of sets it up a little bit differently. Like, for example, the state of Mississippi, their Main Street program is completely separate. It's not part of any state agency, and they are their own nonprofit. In the state of Kentucky, they are actually housed in the Department of Natural Resources up there. So they're more in their State Historic Preservation Office. In Georgia, our office is the statewide coordinator for the Main Street movement, and we are housed at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And so I think it's an interesting balance because while, primarily the majority of the work that we do is supporting Main Street designated communities throughout the state, and helping them make sure that they're meeting their accreditation standards and getting the training and resources they need. That doesn't mean that we don't actually help other communities. So we work with all communities, big, small, and everything in between, on downtown development stuff. So our Office of Planning at DCA, they actually handle requirements for development authorities, the registration process and stuff like that. But our office, we usually work with development authorities to help them through the day-to-day process of what it's like to help, work towards recovering your downtown, whether that's the organizational development, whether that's training, whether that's getting everybody on board with a unified vision, and a little bit of everything in between. So we field a lot of phone calls from all different, areas of the state. And a lot of times we're connectors as well. Someone calls, they have a project they're working on, they want to know where's the best place to start. And we may direct them to one of DCA's regional reps. We may talk to them about one of the financial programs, whether that's a housing tax credit project that they could do, or if it's something like DCA's Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund. So it's interesting because while my team focuses, primarily on helping to teach the communities that we work with about the Main Street approach and how to implement that in a balanced way, we also kind of have to be those people that know a little bit of everything about what's happening within the agency. So that way we can make sure that we're connecting the people we work with to the best resources that can help them make their vision for downtown come to life.
Well, Georgia Main Street definitely has a huge focus on history, and one of the essential components of history is stories and storytelling. I
Mhm.
imagine that Georgia Main Street itself has its own stories, particularly success stories. And so I heard about the Georgia Exceptional Main Street Communities, or otherwise known as GEMs. Can you tell us
Mhm.
a little bit more about those?
Sure, absolutely. So this is in the scheme of things, when you look at stuff over 40 years, this is still a relatively new program. We started this designation back in, I want to say 2013. It was like one of the first years that I came on. And so we have our affiliate communities, we have our accredited communities, which again, those are recognized at the national Main Street level. And then we have something in Georgia that we call GEMS, which are Georgia's Exceptional Main Streets. And really that was born out of the idea from being a professional myself and knowing that there's communities that are really working hard and really achieving some incredible stuff. And we wanted to be able to really recognize them for going above and beyond what is asked of them on the state level or the national level. So currently we have 18 designated GEMS communities throughout the state. They range in all sizes. One of our larger communities is the city of Columbus. And then one of our smallest communities is the city of Greensboro. If I think about, different regions of the state, I would say one of our definite, top 2 or 3 excelling GEMS communities would be the city of Rome. If you've been to Rome, they've just done some incredible stuff. City of Thomasville, which was also recognized not just on our state level as doing some incredible stuff, but has also won a Great American Main Street Award from the National Main Street Center. The city of Bainbridge, again, has done some incredible things. When you talk about some success stories, the city of Bainbridge was one of DCA's first designated rural zone communities. And if you're not familiar with what the rural zone program is, it was a special program designed specifically to target rural communities. You have to be 15,000 or less to even apply for the designation. And it's a tax credit program. So business owners can take advantage of a multi-layered tax credit program that can help them with the purchase of the property, the renovation of the property, and then available job tax credits for when jobs are created when business owners move into that property. But within the first year of having that rural zone designation in Bainbridge, Georgia, they sold 27 buildings. They reactivated 27 properties within their downtown district. And it's just been an incredible, incredible transformation. And I think it's interesting because there's no such thing as 2 communities that are exactly alike. Everybody's got different demographics they're working with. Everybody's got different elected officials, different funding, different kind of local support and partnerships. But seeing what our communities have been able to do on the local level has just been incredible. I would say, Rome, again, has been amazing. They have been a huge utilizer of the Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund, which is a gap financing program through DCA and allows people to help close the gap between the traditional bank financing and the owner equity that comes into play, and helps support those small business owners who are looking to acquire and renovate property. And they just have done some incredible, incredible things in their downtown, and I would say is definitely an inspiration for many communities. Greensboro, one of the smaller ones that I mentioned earlier, they have a Coney Brewing Company, which they had a shell of a building, a historic building downtown, and they had some investors come in and open their own brewery. And it's just been an incredible, phenomenal example of reutilizing a vacant space that may not have been a good fit for a lot of other stuff, especially considering square footage and how big the property is, but has really become an anchor in that community and a huge contributor to the region. And is, now their beer is sold, all over the state and in some places the country. So it's really cool. And I would say that, one of the most rewarding parts of my job is being able to help assist the directors in making their downtown vision or dream come true. So we really like to consider ourselves a resource for them. Our thing is, help me help you. So if you need help, if you need something, if you're not sure where to start, please reach out to one of our staff members. And we have people with all different types of background and expertise. We have preservation experts. I have team members with communication and background in communication and marketing and advertising. I have team members who have come from small rural communities in South Georgia and other areas of the state. So they get that it's a different, ball game working in the metro area versus working in, small Southeast Georgia community, but because I have team members with experience who have been on the ground, who have been in those positions before, who have connections, who truly understand what it's like to go through that revitalization process, and build something from the ground up. I think it helps, us advocate for them more, and helps us understand kind of where they're coming from and what resources we can connect them with.
Well, I'm sure there are lots of communities across the state of Georgia that would like to have their own success story someday. So,
Mhm.
how exactly would a community get involved with Georgia Main Street?
Sure. I mean, I would say the first thing to do is just to reach out to us. We have a couple different ways of doing that. If you already have a connection with your DCA regional rep in the area, you can simply just reach out to them, and they can get you connected with our team. If you're watching this and you're interested in connecting with us, we have a general email address that you can shoot an email to. It's Main Street, MAINSTREET at DCA.ga.gov. If you send an email to that email address, it actually goes out to our entire team. And so it can be as simple as just shooting us an email and saying, hey, I want to learn more, or we're interested in seeing if this would be a good fit for us. We realize that it may not be a great fit for everybody. Maybe not everybody wants to kind of have to keep up with the national requirements and, guidelines and recommendations that they set forth and kind of mandate for you to be able to have that designation. But that doesn't mean you can't come to training. That doesn't mean that you can't get our newsletter. It doesn't mean you can't stay connected with us, because I think there's a lot of different ways to be involved and a lot of different levels that you can be involved at. And it really just depends on your interest and comfort level.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Before we close out here, is there anything else you wanted to mention that we haven't gotten to yet?
Just that I'm excited. We're celebrating 40 years of Main Street this year, and that's an incredible achievement for anybody. And I think to know that the state of Georgia has supported the Main Street movement for 40 years, that's something to shout from the rooftops. If you're in my line of work, I think that's just exciting. Also, that I think that our numbers are really impressive. Every single year, we have $500 million of private public investment happening in Georgia's downtowns. And over the past 40 years, it has all the jobs that have been created is equal to 30 plus Kia plants being opened in the state. So, we always get excited when we hear about a Kia factory or a John Deere factory, or, if you're in, the metro area, a car dealership or something like that, a Porsche factory or something like that opening. And that's, super exciting. But when you think about all the jobs that have been created by these small mom and pop businesses equaling 30 something Kia plants opening in our state, I mean, that's phenomenal. That's something I'm so proud of. And it's definitely not something we can do alone, but, our team is super excited to be boots on the ground and an advocate for these small mom and pop businesses across the state.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and speaking with us. It's very evident that you've done your part to make the last 4 decades of success a reality. And with that, that has been Jessica Reynolds of Georgia Main Street. Thank you so much.
Thank you.